Hey guys, and welcome back to Settlers. Today is episode 2 of season 2, and we're back in the Overlook building one of the cornerstones of the Darfari culture, a place for them to worship Yog. After we look through the finished build, I'll also be introducing some new Darfari types, and, well, there might be something of interest they've found on their southern coast. So, without further ado, let's get started. Rather than a full solid structure, I'm intending to have this temple be an open-air design with scaffolding walkways on either side, creating a sort of viewing pit where the Darfari can watch prisoners be sacrificed to Yog. The first thing I did after I removed the trees and bushes was to place down the abyss of Yog to make sure my spacing was correct, and then I began on the walkways. This was a pretty simple process. I used pillars to support ceilings that hugged onto the nearby rock, and I'll later blend these pillars into the theme a bit better by masking them on the exterior with flotsam door frames. I did initially use wooden support struts, but they were a bit too clean for my liking, so I opted for the aforementioned flotsam door frames. As I was building the walkways up, I decided to build another watchtower on this side of the settlement. The watchtower from episode 1 will cover the entranceway and cliffside of the Overlook, whereas this watchtower should cover the settlement entrance and of course the temple to Yog. I built the base of this watchtower 2 tiles above the walkway, and after debating with myself for a while, I decided to add a ladder section to climb up to the watchtower from the walkway. Initially I was going to use stairs, but I felt a ladder just suited this area better. This is also where I added the masking of the pillars beneath the walkway itself, using door frames to get a scaffolding feeling that gives the structure visual support without making it feel too solid. Next, I bridged the walkway over to the rock on the other side of the Yog altar, where I built another viewing platform. This is smaller, though still structurally similar to the other catwalk overlooking the abyss, though this side won't have a watchtower. That would be a bit too much, I think. Instead, I added a second platform raised 1 tile above the walkway below, which will just simply provide another area to watch over the sacrifices. Next I went back to the Watchtower Base, building it up in a similar fashion to the watchtower I built in episode 1. It's supported by a series of pillars running up the centre with regular supporting platforms going up the length of the tower. The tower itself sits quite high above the settlement due to its starting point atop the rock and looks quite nice. Initially I wasn't too sure on this design when I first built it in episode 1, but it's definitely grown on me. I think it fits the salvaged, cobbled together look I'm going for quite nicely. As with the previous watchtower, I decorated the interior platforms with crenellated walls and flotsam door frames in the same fashion as the other tower. Next, I went back to the bridge between the 2 walkways and I raised it up by a single tile with stairs on either side. Initially, I didn't really want to do this, but I felt that the gap beneath was too short and didn't give a good long distance view of the abyss, so therefore I chose to adjust it and it did work much better. Finally, I added roofing to the watchtower and ladder column, placed fences to block off the decorative doorways and added fences to the edges of the watchtower. Finally, when the shutter build was done, it was then time to, of course, furnish. Alongside the sacrifice pit, I built a simple gate over the entrance to the Overlook and a platform above. The Darfari here have encountered other people of different cultures plenty of times and are familiar with some of their customs, as you can tell by the Darfari trying to fix a broken cart near the gate. Entering the Overlook, the stairway to the gate platform is just on the left-hand side of the entrance, providing access to the top and bottom walkways. Leaving the gate platform, the sacrificial pit is a large and obvious feature of the Overlook. The pit is guarded by two massive, stern Darfari who we'll learn a little bit more about shortly. Entering the pit, no sacrifices are currently taking place, but a few Darfari are watching a priest commune with Yog in preparation for the next sacrifice. There's an empty cage for storing prisoners and a couple of barrels nearby used to store the personal items of the victims, alongside an obvious blood-soaked barrel used to store excess flesh. Accessing the walkways, these provide some fairly simple platforms to watch the sacrificial process below. There's nothing too fancy about these walkways, but I think the simplicity actually makes it much nicer. Finally, the Watchtower sits high above the Overlook, providing a dizzying overview of the settlement and the sacrifice pit below. As I mentioned briefly earlier, you may have noticed two interesting looking Darfari guarding the sacrifice pit. This episode introduces not one but two new types of Darfari, the Berserker and the Reaver. Berserkers are massive, towering males, often masked and carrying a heavy bone maul. The Reavers are the agile female fighters of the tribe, clad in blood-stained Darfari garb and often wielding bone claws. You might also be wondering how the Berserkers have metal primeval armour. The jungle is a wild place, full of remnants of older civilizations, and the Darfari have become used to scavenging the jungle, especially shipwrecks. On an excursion through the southern side of the jungle, Tele the Reaver spotted a cloud of smoke wafting through the trees. Upon reaching the area, she found a wrecked ship driven into the sand of the small inlet. The Darfari have scavenged ships here before, but this one is fresh. Nestled into one of the trees nearby was the source of the smoke. A roughly thrown together hut stands ablaze, with remnants scattered throughout the site that seem to indicate at least a few items survived the shipwreck. It is unknown what happened to this hut or the person that was in it, but a strange tribal marker outside, along with a grave marked with a foreign sword and helmet, indicate that whoever camped here might not have been Darfari. As the rain began, Tele rolled a boulder in front of the hut to stop any animals wandering into the flames, confident the downpour would soon douse them. However, between the wrecked ship, the grave, the arrows lodged into the hut, the strange tribal symbol and the fire that was now giving way to the rain, something was out of ordinary with this shipwreck, and the lack of body or blood within the hut indicated that whoever was in it either survived or was dragged away. We'll have to see how this story progresses. And there we have it, Season 2, Episode 2 of Settlers is now complete. This season is definitely going to be very challenging in regards to the building and structure, but I think the Darfari are going to provide a really cool platform to launch a story from, a story that's definitely going to get quite a bit darker than Season 1. If you enjoy my content, all the links to my Twitch, Twitter, Discord, Patreon, Host Havoc affiliate page, NordVPN discount and NordPass discount are available in the description below. However, of course, you can simply just leave a like, a comment or subscribe. Any of those are very greatly appreciated. Patrons get a bunch of nice benefits, including sneak peeks of videos, your name in every video, custom made wallpapers in 1080p and 4K resolutions, full-size build blueprints, Discord roles and more. On that note, a massive thanks to our patrons Sadialot, Randar, Connor, Ivy, Torn, Ill-Fated, Coffeeman04, Jacques, Marion Ladd, Ryan, Ben, Alfric and Eagle Rose. As always, thanks for watching, take care, and I'll see you soon.